How do you feel when a long closed, or rather a cold case, ultimately gets its closure? A cathartic feeling strikes us when we get to know that the culprits of several decades old cases have finally been taken into custody by the investigative authorities. Today, we have 3 such cold cases on our list, and we are way too excited to share these with you. So come, let's dig deeper into the solved mysteries of the cold cases, shall we? Number 3. Minor Liz Minnie Soriano murder case. It was a chilly winter day in 1999 when a 13-year-old girl, Minor Liz Soriano, aka Minnie, never returned home from her school. She used to study in 7th grade and was very smart, and was considered a bit mature for her age. Minnie loved poetry and had a deep fascination with rainbows. After several days of going missing, this flower-like girl was found dead in a dumpster in the Bronx, New York. She was found stuffed in a bag in that garbage dumping bin. Even though the medical examiner dismissed the idea of the occurrence of any sexual assault on Minnie, traces of semen were found on her sweatshirt. It was revealed that the cause of Minnie's death was strangulation. The task force formed by the NYPD in 1999 looked into the case, with Detective Michael Lagiovane being one of the chief investigating officers of this team. What followed was an intense round of interrogation of the near and far acquaintances of Minnie's family members. DNA testing was carried out at great lengths by sending samples from Minnie's clothing, hair, and nails. But guess what? The results did not show any matches. New York City Chief Medical Examiner Dr. Barbara Sampson had said, "The hardest cases that we deal with as medical examiners are those involving children. What was done with her is something that has been haunting me for nearly 20 years since. When it's a homicide like this, and when there were no really good leads as to who did it, that's the most troubling kind of case for us." When nothing conclusive came out despite conducting an intensive investigation for a year, the team lost leads, and the case literally turned cold. However, nearly 2 decades later, the NYPD got the enthusiasm to reopen this case under Raymond, one of the first-grade detectives of New York. They went through a great deal of inquiries, interrogation, and investigation till they came up with a plausible theory that Minor Liz was murdered by someone who was not a stranger but known to her. By resorting to the latest technology of familial DNA testing, a major breakthrough was attained. Once the result of this DNA test was obtained, the detectives narrowed down the search result to 5 relatives of Martinez's people who could have connections to Minnie's murder. There is one fact about Minnie that we didn't really share with you all before. Did you know that this bubbly little girl had a great interest in astronomy? One of her classmates had revealed that Minnie wished to become an astronaut when she grew up, but that sadly did not happen. The detectives got a hold of her journals and found out a list of the astronomy websites that she used to follow, and undoubtedly this showed how great an interest she had in this field. Later, when the DNA test reports made the investigating team narrow down to 3 people, one of them being Martinez, aka Jupiter Joe, the team held him to be a prime suspect. Wondering why? Well, this is because Martinez was found to be on the 1999 list of tenants who dwelled in the building where Minnie used to reside with her family. Thanks to the upgraded technology of DNA testing, the investigating team came up with a vital result. They found out that the DNA sample from Martinez matched with the semen sample that was found from Minnie's sweatshirt. Martinez, who is popularly known as Jupiter Joe, was called so because he used to offer improvised astronomical lessons to several children worldwide. Oh yes, he also had a YouTube channel where he used to upload his astronomy-based videos. This apparently good-natured soul was the one behind the murder of little Minnie. He had brutally killed her by first compressing her neck and then attempting to sexually assault her. But in the course of trying to do that, Minnie died, and the cold-blooded Jupiter Joe, or Martinez, was cold-blooded enough to dump her body in the dumpster in the Bronx. Martinez had thought that he had succeeded in escaping from the clutches of the NYPD. After all, the detectives did not get to catch him for over 22 years. Jupiter Joe, who is now 49 years old, was ultimately arrested by the investigating team. Raymond said that the arrest was indeed a tremendous relief. "I hope she's smiling at us. I hope that she sees all the people that cared and that she knew she wasn't forgotten." Minnie will now be happy to see how her murderer will rot in prison. Justice prevails. Number 2. Bonnie Baker Murder Case. It was in June 1998 that Bonnie Baker was last seen alive. She had a lively personality and had gone partying with her friends at the Fort Restaurant in Morrison to celebrate her pay raise at work. And guess what the most horrifying thing is? Her body was not even discovered till the following year. It was only in 1999 that her body was discovered from Navajo land. But this is not yet the end of the mystery. Sadly, the identification process of the skeletal remains took another 14 years. An unknown woman dialed 911 to inform police that a woman had been murdered in her apartment on Louisiana Avenue. She even informed the Denver police that the suspect, Crespin Nin Perez, who was Bonnie's boyfriend, was heading towards Mexico, with the body of the woman being stored in the trunk of his car. Later, on July 1st, 1998, a great breakthrough was achieved. The police got their hands on a red Geoprism car that had crashed near Globe, Arizona. The striking thing is that the car had a resemblance to the description that the caller had supplied the police with. Police visited the site of the car crash and got evidence of blood from the car's trunk. Yes, things do get murkier at this point. Coming to the most horrifying point, it was on July 31st, 1999, when a couple of boys who were enjoying horse rides came across a human skull on Navajo land in New Mexico. Not only the skull, but several other skeletal remains were also found. Exhaustive forensic research and an autopsy failed to identify whose body it was and what was the cause of death. After several years passed on, it was only in 2012 that the Denver Police Department came to know that the DNA samples from the skeletal remains actually belonged to Bonnie Baker. The police, after getting confirmation that the skeletal remains were that of Bonnie's, took rapid action to arrest her boyfriend, Nini Perez. The very day when Bonnie was partying with her friends for her pay raise, Perez was fired from his job. Both of them had the same workplace. He was already furious with Bonnie celebrating with her friends, and when he had come to the party, he struck out. It was only in 2021 that Nene Perez was arrested by the Denver Police Department from Mexico. He will now have to go through a series of trials, hearings, and whatnot. Bonnie Baker's soul will now rest in peace, and we are happy that she deserved her share of justice. Number 1. Gail Baris Rape and Murder Case. A 30-year-old woman named Gail Baris from Battle Creek did not return home after she was last seen at Speed's coffee shop. Battle Creek got shook to its core by this brutal homicide of the 30-year-old woman. Almost 2 weeks after Gail's disappearance, her body was found by the investigating team. It was on River Road in Emmett Township where the police got their hands on the remains of the lady. And that was exactly when they learned that Mrs. Baris was raped and then stabbed to death. There was one person who had not lost hope through this entire ordeal of investigations and inquiries. It was Mrs. Baris's son, James Baris. He had relentlessly tried to help the police in every way he could. Ultimately, on January 25, 2021, James received the call he had been waiting for several years. He said, "Sergeant Marshall called and informed me that he just received a call from Michigan State Police Labs, indicating that it had come through. In fact, some of the early tests ruled Plato out. DNA was still in its infancy, and I have documents that indicated he had been ruled out. However, there were subsequent tests that were conducted on other pieces of evidence, including blood, that came back inconclusive." The police investigated the family and a couple of Gail Baris's friends to see if they could provide any leads. Out of the two friends of Mrs. Baris, there was a person called Mr. Roger Plato, who was already killed after being shot by the police during a violent confrontation which occurred 3 days before the police came across the remains of Mrs. Baris. Although Plato's body was cremated, the police had collected his blood sample, because this very blood sample helped them in tracing the murderer of Mrs. Baris. The rapist and murderer was none other than Gail Baris's friend, Roger Plato. The murderer of Mrs. Baris was not found for a long span of 30 years. Eventually, the case turned cold and nothing came out of it. Now, 30 years is a long period, and we can't even imagine how James and his family went through such a tormenting time. The lives of the Baris family got changed forever since that traumatic incident, and all they had been hoping for was to see the murderer getting justice. Destiny has its way of punishing people for their deeds, and probably that is why Roger Plato died in that confrontation, long before Mrs. Baris's was even found. I think it is a relief for most of us and a weight off our shoulders just having an answer, and that to me was the biggest thing, said Baris. He even said, "I think if somebody was around today, now we've got to endure a trial, which then creates a lot of other issues, and then we potentially don't get a conviction, and then what? Even with a DNA match, because so much time has elapsed, eyewitnesses have either passed away or they can't be relied upon for their statements 32 years later. So I'm kinda glad it wound up the way it is." This brings our video to an end. Want to see some other psychopaths facing justices after decades due to modern DNA tech? Click in the corner to see other such cases.